Good evening, welcome. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 20th, 2018. This is a combined meeting of our work session and formal meeting. So welcome, everyone. I will note that Councilman Paul Draper is joining us by phone. He's recovering and doing very well. I got to see him the other day, and we're glad that you're joining us, Paul. Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. May we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Draper?
Here.
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Present.
Mayor Abu-Asli?
Here.
Ms. Gedalia?
Here.
Mr. Brandt? Mr. Sterned?
Present.
Turn it up because you can't hear it. Can you hear it?
Okay, first on our agenda we have a proclamation for Small Business Saturday 2018. I will come down front. And we have a guest today, Joe Eckhart with the Small Business Administration. Would you like to come forward and accept the proclamation? Brooke, why don't you join her? We have Brooke Prouty from Uptown Marion. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Did you want to say something before we make the proclamation?
One little quick thing.
Sure.
My name is Joe Eckert. I'm from the Small Business Administration. I started in July and just moved to town about 2 months ago. And on Saturday, I am going to be with the Marion Chamber and holding up signs on the street corner saying shop small business for Small Business Saturday, and honk if you love a small business. So if you see me, give me a wave.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Okay. This is a proclamation in honor of Small Business Saturday. Whereas the City of Marion, Iowa celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30.2 million small businesses in the United States, which represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States, and are responsible for 65.9% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2017. And whereas small businesses employ 47.5% of all businesses with employees in the United States, and whereas 90% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses contribute positively to the local economy by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue, and whereas 89% of consumers who are aware of Small Business Saturday say the day encourages them to shop small all year long, and whereas 73% of consumers who reportedly shopped small at independently owned retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday did so with friends or family. And whereas Marion, Iowa supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Nicholas Abu-Asli, Mayor of the City of Marion, Iowa, do hereby proclaim November 24th, 2018, as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Okay, next on our agenda under presentations, we have a presentation regarding Marion Enterprise Network Program by Mr. Glue with Metco Holding Company.
All right, I appreciate everybody being here for this exciting presentation here this afternoon. I'll try to be brief. In your council packets, you were provided a summary and really the details of this program that we have been working on really for over the past year, probably even more than that. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of give you the high level real quick in a few slides, and then answer any questions that you might have in the end. Just again, if you didn't make the connection, later on in your meeting, the action item associated with this presentation is then to direct staff to actually work with us to negotiate the actual agreement that will frame this up with our partners. So first, just to set the stage, we are talking primarily about the area that encompasses the Marion Enterprise Center. As most of you know, that industrial park is designated as a certified industrial park that we put together with the City of Marion and certified by the Iowa Economic Development Authority. What does that mean? Basically, we've done a ton of work, lots of studies to help companies mitigate risk as they develop in that particular park. So we've done a lot of things that sets this park apart from other industrial sites across the state and the Midwest. When this park was constructed, one of the things that was done proactively was a significant amount of fiber was placed in the ground. That was something that early on the city deemed as something that was important to do at the time, and the piece that we're at now is developing the strategy to actually leverage some of that excess fiber. So you can see the number of strands that are approximately in the ground today, most of that what we call dark, meaning it's not really connected to anything yet today. It's a unique environment out there in that the infrastructure is both what we call looped, and we have the ability to provide redundant service, which if you're a business, those are two really key important words when you talk about data connectivity. Another important asset that we have out there is the fact that the ring of fiber that's located out there has direct connectivity to Involta's data center. And we'll talk about the importance of that in just a moment, but if you're familiar with their data center located next to Lynn County REC, we're seeking to really leverage the extremely competitive environment that exists in that data center with a multitude of providers. Basically any provider that a company may need, any service that a company may need when it comes to data services, they can access if we can just get them connected to that data center. So this is the Marion Enterprise Center, again for reference point, just east of Highway 13 and 151. 4 tenants that we have done projects with over the last few years, including Legacy Manufacturing. Of course, they just finished up phase 2 of their project. El Plast America, Electric Specialty Manufacturing, and then Speedy Delivery Service, which if you have not been out in the park in the last few weeks, I'd encourage you maybe to swing out and take a look at that project that's coming together just south of El Plast. So when companies look at our park, we are many, many steps ahead in being able to tell them about the infrastructure that we have in that park. I realize the details of this map are hard to see from where you're at. But what this illustrates is it shows every amount of the various utilities that are installed in the park, shows where water's at, shows where electric, where gas are located, and then actually one of the lines is illustrating the fiber ring that's located in that park, and it's also illustrated by this line here. You can generally see how it comes along 151, drops down into the park, obviously serves the Marion Police Station out there, and then the red line dashes, it follows Partners Avenue. So it fully travels through our park, and then you can see where it exits on the south end. So the program that we are putting together is what right now we are calling the Marion Enterprise Net. We're not necessarily 100% in love with that name, but if we come up with something better, we will seek to embrace that. But when you look at economic development and really trying to, especially when it comes to the recruitment of new companies, you have to really figure out what you have and leverage that. What makes your environment different than the thousands of other communities and areas of the country that say we're the best fit for you, company XYZ. And so for us, our unique asset we believe is fiber, and how we can leverage that collectively with our communication providers. We are not a community that goes after the same types of companies that even our neighbors to the west do in Cedar Rapids. They have lots and lots of ability from a water, sewer capacity. That's not us. Therefore, the types of companies that they focus on aren't necessarily a good fit here. So what is a good fit for us? That's where we look to leverage our unique asset, which we call fiber. We want to create a competitive advantage to support a strategy for attracting kind of a targeted list of businesses. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And so what we propose to do is really use some of these excess fibers to build really an exclusive network to support our strategic target industries. So we build this network, and we target it towards specific types of users. Does this mean anybody that builds a facility and makes an investment in the Marion Enterprise Center gets free internet? No. This is targeted at companies that really meet this following criteria. So first, we need them to make a minimum facility investment within our industrial park. We want them to create at least 10 jobs, 10 high-quality jobs, as defined by the state of Iowa. And for us, that means a minimum wage of $21.61 an hour. So we use the state standards to measure what's high quality. And then beyond that, we need them to meet one of these benchmarks, and we develop these together with our partners at Involta. So they need to have at least minimum storage needs as defined there. They need to have minimum application software developers on site. You can see the minimum speed that they need, and then there's some reliability requirements or needs as well. One of those needs to be met for them to be allowed to connect to what we're going to call the Marion Enterprise Net. So once companies do that, what does that mean? So we've developed this package that we think can be an attractive tool to bringing in the types of companies that I've defined. So together with Imon Communication, we're going to provide internet connectivity at no cost for the first 100 megabytes of service. Beyond that, they would negotiate that with Imon. A lot of times companies will spend lots of money in that last mile, so moving data from where they're at back to, in our case, the data center. We're going to totally eliminate those costs. So we're letting them utilize this highway, this fiber, back to the data center without charging them any amount of money to move whatever the volume of data is. Imon Communications is also committing to cover installation costs, so connectivity to the building from the fiber that we have, up to $2,000. And then Involta, once we get them connected back to Involta, are offering wholesale prices on any of the data services that they offer, wholesale for the first 12 months. So that's kind of the package. We think this could be a big deal for the right company. We're saving costs. We get them to the data center where they have the ability to have backup after backup after backup as far as the services and connectivity that they need. Plus, by having this direct connection to the data center, we have companies already out there that have built inside their own building IT infrastructure and the types of it's almost like a safe room within their building to protect their IT assets that they don't need to build within their own walls anymore. We have that asset right up the street and the ability to connect them to it. This is a list of the target industries that we came up with 2 years ago. We hired a consultant to come in and really do an analysis of our area. Where do we come up with these? These are emerging sectors that we know we have the workforce within our region that these folks need. So when you think of the type of workforce, the Rockwell type companies that we have in our area, these are the types of companies that, combined with needing high data, high technology infrastructure, we think are a possibility for us to target this towards. So when we talk about target industries, those are the companies. What does it take to make this happen? Eventually, once we would find the first user, Medco Holding Company would invest in a couple pieces of equipment to really bring this exclusive network online. The city, through really kind of the existing agreement that the city has to maintain fiber in our community, we would seek to really leverage that. and that's about as intelligent as I am on that. I'm sure Mr. Miller can talk more about that if you have questions. And then the one thing that we would have the ability to do, that if there were any maintenance costs beyond kind of typical, we would have the ability to really get reimbursed on those costs from the companies that are utilizing the network. So minimum investment to really bring this online. What do we need to do from here is today we're seeking your authorization to join us in really negotiating a four-party agreement with the different entities that are involved in making this happen. From that point, we would then work to develop marketing collateral to start telling the world about this. And the last piece that we're kind of excited about is last month we hosted Debbie Durham, who is the director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority, at a meeting out at Elplast. The mayor joined us for that. And we talked just kind of briefly about what we were seeking to accomplish, and she was very interested in helping us figure out ways through their marketing channels to get this message out to some of the prospects that they might be working with. So that marketing piece we're excited to dive into once we can iron out kind of this agreement following this presentation today. So that's my overview generally to kind of expound on what was provided to you, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Glue?
One quick one. So we obviously did this, I don't know when we did it, but we put all this fiber down. Is this what we envisioned happening eventually, or why did we put all that fiber down and then it's been dormant until now? Was it to come up with something like this, or do we have an ulterior plan?
You guys want to offer any comments?
City Manager Wood?
Yeah, when we put the fiber in, the incremental cost for a basic fiber or going one with a lot of extra capacity really isn't very much. Your cost is actually stranded in putting the ductwork and everything in the ground. So in most cases, the minimum that we put in was 72, and in a lot of cases around the community, we put 144 in. But we thought there might be opportunities like this in the future to leverage some of that fiber for either economic development tools or as we had additional opportunities to expand partnerships in the future. When we originally put it in, the whole network involved us, Lynn County, both school districts. So there's a government purpose behind a lot of it, but we also have a lot of excess capacity.
So this kind of plays right into what we were hoping to happen then.
Yeah, I think we had this vision. We just hadn't quite had enough bandwidth until now, no pun intended, to really flesh out the actual strategy.
And we've had some other partnerships where like IMON has been able to use fiber to lease fiber from us to reach a business. We've worked with the Iowa Communications Network to help provide a bridge over to other locations. So it's been a good asset for us.
That was a very forward-looking decision that really sets Marion apart, and I think this is an opportunity here that to create an ecosystem that supports high-tech industries, high-tech businesses in Marion. So that's I think it's a great thing. So.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have to apologize. I inadvertently skipped over the moment of silence. We have a tradition of having a moment of silence before we begin our meeting. So let's go back and do that. I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, we have another presentation today from the YMCA. Mr. Carlson, Mr. Bohannon, anyone else? Okay, welcome.
That's enough, isn't it? Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for hearing us today. We're going to show you, to start out with, I don't think you all have seen this updated version of our fly-through of the facility that we have, and so we're going to take a couple minutes and show this to you today. Some of you may have seen it, I apologize, but it's worth a second look. Why I don't do the technology part. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. You got to admit that's a pretty cool building. It's a great design. It's a great YMCA. It's going to be one of the best state-of-the-art facilities that we will see in this state and across the country. There's no question about it. This building, and really the partnership is so unique with the city being as involved in this project. We really haven't seen this kind of a commitment across the state with the city and a YMCA collaboration. Okay, so it's huge. It's great. I know you've heard me say this before, but I really want to expound upon that because it is really kind of uncharacteristic that the city and a Y would have this great of a relationship, and it just is. And part of that is because Lon understands the fact that the YMCA, in working with the city, can generally do the operation of this facility more cost effectively, right, than the city can do it. So that's what we do. We run recreation facilities, a lot of ours there. And So it's really a great partnership. So some of us have been working on this thing for a long time, okay? I can say that for myself, certainly. And I think we'd be a lot further down the road right now if we wouldn't have had that little thing called the flood in Cedar Rapids in 2008, which really set us back, obviously, as an operation. We had to rebuild and do that and get back on the right track that way with our flagship operation in Cedar Rapids. So you can't apologize for that because we didn't ask for it. But we've moved forward, and now we're looking down the pipe of something really tremendous to happen here. Okay, and so we all know that this came out of the original envisioning process, the Imaginate envisioning process. This was put at the high level list, and we want to complete this by the end of 2020. So that's why we've been pushing so hard for this. Was functions and fitness. Now we're talking about a YMCA and a city collaboration that will brand to make it right for everyone. I talked about the fiscal responsibility. We still want to push for a groundbreaking this year. People are thinking we're crazy, but we are pushing very, very hard for that. One of the things that we're looking to do in order to get that accomplished and then continue on with our fundraising process is the pool creates some interesting other obstacles for us with helical piers and some of the things that we have to do in the ground under a pool. And so we're looking at trying to get the first portion of the building in the ground this December and then start the pool in the springtime. So that also gives us the ability, as we're looking at funding, to save interest. If we can raise a lot more money, we save interest by not having to carry those costs in. So we're really trying to look at the best possible way we can do this to save money for everyone that's putting money into this thing, our donors, the city, everyone. So what we're here to talk about is in a couple of weeks, we're going to ask you to consider a financial guarantee, like similar to Prospect Meadows that would help us get the final pathway of the financial plan done. We have banks and investors that are a part of this process already, but the city guarantee will help us get the remaining financial plan established to get this whole facility done. So that's going to be on. We're shooting for December 6th. That's a very, very important meeting, and we're hoping you're here and on board with us. It's a 5-year, $500,000 commitment from the city. So the guarantee would be 5 years, $500,000, and really we think because of our pro forma and how strong it looks based on population and the growth of this community and otherwise that we know are similar to ours and how they were built, we know the only thing that we think could happen is it could get triggered in year 1, and that would be it. But we're putting together the plan right now. You don't have that, you haven't seen that yet, but you will be seeing that as we move forward. We also are hitting hard again our fundraising campaign. Renee, I know you've asked that question a couple times. Honestly, I have been trying to save money and not hiring a professional fundraising firm to help us get to kind of the finish line on this thing. It's not like I don't think we've done a good job of raising money now. We've had some good surprises. We have some not so good surprises. But we are going to bite the bullet. I talked to Lon last week, and we are interviewing some professional fundraising groups to help us, especially with the community campaign, to get to the end of this thing. We think there's a lot more money out there to be raised, and we just need to put the full court press on to get this done. January through March will probably be that time frame, and we're going to put our best foot forward and go forward with it. We also know that with the pool being done in the spring, it would give us more of an opportunity to work with our state funding. We have some legislators that are working with us that have some really great avenues to get some state funding, and they think the pool could be that trigger, and it could help us get to over the finish line like they like to see happen with some of the state funding that could come into this, the CAT grant and some other avenues that we're going to be looking at. So The site's bought and paid for. We know we used some lost funds from the city to accomplish that. We appreciate getting those funds up front. Again, our performance tells us that the thing is gonna rock, and we really know that it will. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have a subgroup of our employees working with Mike's group at the rec department to put these programs together. This is the real beauty of the whole thing. The Marion YMCA programs and the recreation programs for the city are kind of a hybrid put together, and so when the community comes to the recreation center, they have both. They win. They get one set of programs, and that's going pretty well, I think. Don't, Mike? You know, we've really worked hard to make sure we have an open mind and open discussions about how all that's put together. And it's very important that as we're working so closely with the city that we have all that public access happening. So, you know, we came here 23 years ago. Our kids, we moved to Marion. Our kids went to Linn-Mar High School. We've been a Marion resident ever since then. We're looking to retire here, and I want my grandkids to come back here and use this facility someday. We owe it to the future generations to get this thing accomplished. It's gone too far. We're in this thing too deep, and we just got to move it forward. So I appreciate your time today. I just wanted to make sure that you understood we're pushing like crazy on this end to make it happen, and we look forward to trying to bring this financial guarantee to you and to hopefully get it passed.
I really
Question?
appreciate that you showed the fly-through video, because that just really gives a great perspective on what a huge leap forward this will be, this facility for the community, and you know, our community deserves something like that. So anyway, any
Absolutely.
questions? No questions?
You're not going to let me off that easy, are you? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you the rest of the way through this process. It's going to be a great one for the community.
Thank you. Welcome, Councilmember Brandt, to the meeting. Okay, at this time we have a section of our meeting where we take public comments on any item that is listed on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a section where all the items are voted on as a group and not generally discussed separately. So if there's anyone who would like to address the council with regard to any item on the consent agenda, this is the time to do that. So please come forward. Okay, I see that there are none, so we will proceed with the consent agenda. Mr. Sternad.
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to move to make a motion to approve the consent agenda calendar as follows. This will be including items A1 through F1, resolution number 27294 through 27303.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, including items A1 through F1 and resolutions 27294 through 27303. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. I will pass the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
I make a motion to consent agenda with Mayor Ablowski's abstention. Items A1 through B1, Resolution 27304.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Adkins and a second by Mr. Jensen. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of items A1 through B1, including Resolution 27304, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And I will relinquish the gavel back to the mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-29, amending Chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances relating to council. This is the second consideration.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 18-29, amending Chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-30, amending Chapter 18 of the Code of Ordinances relating to city clerk. This is the second consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 18-30, amending Chapter 18 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the city clerk. Second consideration. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. Mr. Ned.
Your Honor, I move to make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-31, amending the Code of Ordinances by adding Chapter 18A relating to the city treasurer. Second consideration.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Councilperson Sternad and seconded by Councilperson Brandt to approve ordinance number 18-31, amending the Code of Ordinances by adding Chapter 18A relating to the city treasurer. This is the second consideration. Discussion? All those in favor of ordinance number 18-31, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion has been approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-32, amending Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances relating to fiscal management. Second consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 18-32, amending Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances relating to fiscal management. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-33, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances relating to operating procedures. Second consideration.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 18-33, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances relating to operating procedures. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-34, amending Chapter 23 of the Code of Ordinances related to Park Board. This is the second consideration.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 18-34, amending Chapter 23 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the Park Board. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of Code of Ordinances relating to liquor licenses and wine and beer permits. This will be initial consideration that was tabled on 11/8/2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of the Code of Ordinances relating to liquor licenses and wine and beer permits. This is the initial consideration. Discussion on this? Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to thank everyone for adding in the distance from schools for the sale of it, for the sale of alcohol. But I do have another question too. I don't see anything in here that talks about like a liquor store being next to a school. Am I missing that, or is that them?
I think this chapter refers to the license to sell. Well, I guess it would be for carry-out purposes. I don't know if you can provide anything on that, but from a zoning district classification, it would be, if it's in a commercial district, I think it would be provided by. I think
So can I ask, so like across from Linmar, let's say that's zone commercial, can a liquor store be put up? Like across from the football field?
Does that reference
The code states any permit holder or license holder in which selling beer, wine, or alcoholic liquor, that's for consumption on premises. So that makes it sound like you are
Restaurant,
correct.
right?
And there's the 50% rule.
Right.
So in our last discussion, when we talked 2 weeks ago, we talked about the 200-foot rule, but we wanted to allow restaurants that had over 50% food, but not to allow just a bar.
Yeah.
So when I read that, I thought it met that definition.
Of a liquor store or restaurant, or bar, I should
Well,
say.
restaurant and bar, and I'm assuming a bar and a liquor store would fall in the same category.
Well,
Not being able to meet the 50% rule.
I guess it wouldn't though because of carryout, correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
This restriction is for
consumption.
on-site consumption.
I see your point.
Other discussion?
So this is the initial consideration. We can bring back a better interpretation of that for the council at the next, if there's a desire for that to move forward so that we're on solid basis for that question.
Okay,
Does
so
that make sense?
would you clarify that? What do you mean bring back a different, another interpretation?
No, we'll clarify that for sure. I think there were some questions in that, so we can clarify it and bring it back to the council under the
Table
second
it?
consideration.
Want to make a motion to table it? Table this?
From my perspective, I'd rather have it read the way it's going to read before we approve it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make a motion to table. Let me get back on the agenda. I'll make a motion to table ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of the Code of the Ordinances relating to the liquor license and wine and beer permits.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to table amending ordinance number 18-35, amending Chapter 120 of the Code of Ordinances relating to liquor licenses and wine and beer permits. Discussion on the tabling. Is there any urgency to having this done today, Mr. Trahorn?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we can, okay. Further discussion on tabling. All those in favor of tabling the motion to approve ordinance 18-35, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion is approved and the ordinance is tabled. Ms. Atkins.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-36, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinance relating to minors. Initial consideration tabled 110818.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilwoman Gadela to approve ordinance number 18-36, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances relating to minors.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
this will need to be tabled as well until the previous ordinance passes.
That's what Councilman Jensen was just telling me, so. Okay. Is there a motion to table?
You want to amend that?
Your Honor, I make a motion to table ordinance number 18-36, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances relating to minors.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table ordinance 18-36. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion to table, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion is approved.
Okay. Next, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27305, approving repair services agreement with Legacy Building Solutions in the amount of $25,334.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27305, approving repair services agreement with Legacy Building Solutions in the amount of $25,334. Discussion? And this is for repair of the public service
Yes, Your Honor,
facility.
it's the fabric tension structure at Public Service. The repairs we did this year are starting to pull apart. The fabric's starting to deteriorate even more to the point we don't think we can get it through this winter. We actually found a company out of Minnesota that specializes in mitigating buildings just like this, coverall buildings. So what they're proposing to do is come in, laminate the panels, so it'll give us through the wintertime, and then they're also going to come in and see what options we have to structurally enforce the building. And so with this repair, that should give us some breathing room on pursuing any other facility options.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ryan, how long are they saying this will last? Is it just this season, or do they give any indication?
These repairs right here will fix the major repair, major holes that we have right now. Really, the building's in a situation to where either the entire building needs to be recovered and structurally enforced. So this is by no means a temporary repair, but it'll at least give us some breathing room. It'll get us through the winter. I'm not sure it'll get us through another winter.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
You said it is a temporary repair, right?
If we were to pursue permanent repairs, it'd be a more extensive thing we'd have to look at. Yeah.
Okay, any further questions or discussion on this? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving resolution number 27305, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Councilmember Gadela.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27306, approving the repair and installation of traffic signal safety systems with Trey Electric for $25,000.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27306, approving the repair and installation of traffic signal safety systems with Trey Electric for $25,000. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Your Honor, these are for as the council may know, we had an accident at 31st Street and 7th Avenue. The mast arm on the southeast corner of the intersection got struck. This is to initiate the repairs to the intersection. To purchase a new pole and get it installed, it's going to take about 20 weeks. The reason why is each one of these poles is custom built. We've found a temporary pole from the city of Cedar Rapids we can get installed by next week. So we'll have a temporary pole up there. We got very lucky. I'll tell you that. Yeah. And so we're hoping to have that up by next Wednesday at the soonest. But from there, we'll have to make permanent repairs. We're estimating the repairs in total will exceed $75,000.
So, is there insurance coverage for this?
Yes. Yeah, we'll subrogate against the insurance.
Okay. Sure, a lot of people are wondering about that, but
Yes.
okay, well, great. It's good that we have the temporary pole because we were all concerned about having that stop sign there for such a long period of time.
We got very lucky.
Yeah, so great. Okay, other discussion or questions? We'll vote. All those in favor of resolution number 27306, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. At this time, we have a discussion regarding uptown parking ramp. Is this a city manager?
Yep.
Yes, okay.
Hang on, we'll get this switched over. Okay. Yeah, we've been doing some work on the staff side to bring the council up to date and the public up to date on where we're sitting with the Uptown redevelopment project. I think, as everybody knows by this point, it involves 3 different blocks in Uptown Marion. The existing library, the block that the existing library is on, the block in between the library and City Hall, and the block that currently houses the Marion Square Mall. The central decision really facing the City Council is that there are a couple of things that are really contingent on what we proceed with for parking. In order to support the two buildings that are proposed, the mixed-use facilities need to have dedicated parking, both for residential uses and for proposed business uses that they have on commercial floors. The way that we can achieve that and still maintain an adequate level of public parking is to look at the construction of a ramp. And the two real alternatives facing the City Council are looking at a full block option or a half block option. But in either case, if you choose the half block option, then the city would proceed with disposal of the properties that are still existing on that block. If we choose the full block option, it just changes how we proceed with disposal of the properties. But I can't see a reason why, even under either scenario, why the city would want to maintain long-term ownership of the buildings, even under a half-block option scenario. So that's really the decision before the council. There's a significant difference in the total number of spaces that the city can ultimately realize. The full block ramp build-out would have over 600 potential spaces, and as I briefed the council on the last time, the parking study that Park CR staff did for us showed that the low end of parking need in the uptown, once we're building out in between 7th and 15th, would be about 600 additional spaces, with the high side, depending on occupancy, being about 1,200 additional spaces. We can't accommodate that in this single ramp. We know that. That means that ultimately Marion will be looking at a second ramp and potentially even a third ramp as the area continues to develop out, depending on density and what those uses are. But that's really the central decision for the City Council, and the thing that I think from the staff side we need additional guidance on as far as what option you think is most workable so that we can continue to move the project forward. These are aerial views of what the two options look like. That's the half block. This is the full block option. The full block, this is what the view would look like approximately from where the depot is, if it's built out to maximum size. When they talk about a 5-story ramp, remember that the 5th story is open air. It's not covered parking, so you still achieve that same number, but the top row of parking is actually on the roof of the building. There's not much of a difference in the view from the park, other than you can see in this area here. Obviously, the building doesn't extend further back into the remainder of the block. The other significant difference between the two is with the half-block ramp, in order to maintain parking, we do not have the potential for retail on the main floor like we do with the full-block option. What they're estimating right now is that would be a combination of retail suites and then the parking structure behind it. This retail area here is about 16,000 square feet, would carry an assessed value, taxable value of about $2 million. So I just wanted to see if you had additional questions on that, if there was any other information that council members needed to feel comfortable with making that decision. But the next item on the agenda would be a motion directing staff to proceed with one or the other. So I was hoping to have the discussion here and get a sense for where the council would be now, but then the motion would be to direct staff to proceed with either a full block or a half block ramp option. It has financial implications, of course, for the overall district as we start honing in on what the full costs would be and what the financial package would have to look like to get all three projects moving forward.
Okay. Discussion or questions for City Manager? Council members, Sternad.
Sure, thank you. Lon, can you tell us, and I feel like we're going backwards just a little bit here, but I did receive several phone calls since the library's last meeting. Could you clarify for us, would this basically mean that we would be looking at fee-based parking, just for clarification, because I think there's some confusion out here as to whether we would be implementing paid parking right off the bat, or would we be looking at going through a phase where maybe in the future potentially would go to that. I think there's some misconception out there.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where you look at doing paid parking on the street right away. Are you talking street or in the ramp?
Both, if you would, please.
Okay. Yeah, the scenarios that have been modeled in the ramp have been modeled after kind of what Iowa City does, where your first hour is free for general public for use of the ramp. And when we've talked to them, we've talked about having an enhancement for library card holders that it would be a 2-hour free usage in the ramp for the public portion. Certainly the areas that would be reserved, that would be either for business use or private use, the pro forma does anticipate that there would be charges for those. They're making some estimates or best guesses on what the value of that is, because Marion doesn't really have an established market up here for paid parking, unlike areas where you've got more urban density or a more mature urban market. But one thing I think long term, especially as we contemplate having multiple parking ramps, we can't continue to labor forward under the illusion that parking on street is free. The city pays costs for maintaining that now between pothole patching, striping, just the cost of having the paving and replacing the paving. It's not free to the public for providing that. And when you look at other areas that have experienced what Marion is about ready to embark on, like the East Village area in Des Moines, I think is a good comparable, they do charge for on-street parking. If you want people to use the parking ramp and drive them to use that, they won't pay for parking for a second car in the parking ramp if they can park on the street for free. So that's will be something we'll have to engage the uptown business owners on when that would happen, how that would happen. Certainly as we contemplate our streetscape design for the uptown, if we need to install infrastructure to support it, power, kiosk locations, that'll need to be accommodated in the design. But it's not something that would happen right away. I mean, realistically, even if we start doing the construction on the parking ramp now, it would be probably a minimum of a 2-year window before that would start.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gadela had a question.
Yep. So this came up at our last meeting, and I'm in full support of the full block build out. I know you're looking to figure out where everybody is. My question is, I didn't realize our engineering staff would be designing it. Was there ever thought given to a third party owning this and designing it, doing all of that, so the city doesn't have to take this on, or is this our only option to go forward with this?
No, the option that we're looking at right now is it would actually be developer provided. It would be designed by an actual, either an architect or engineering firm that has the expertise to do this, or by a company that has the expertise to do this. And then it would be provided as part of the overall incentive package for the redevelopment of the 2 blocks, the existing library block and the one in between City Hall and the library.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, so if you want to know where we stand, again, I would probably be more in support of the full block parkade as well. I think one of the major differences, or 2 major differences I see between the half block and full block, one is the full block really provides us with the parking that is envisioned needed, in the next 2 to 4 years, with the build out of the multi-use building on 7th Avenue, as well as I do like the retail side on the 6th Avenue to kind of soften that whole look, so you just don't have, a whole wall of parkade look. So for those 2 reasons, I would favor that. Still would love to see a way to find a home or some salvage place for particularly the home at 520 12th Street, or 11th Street, excuse me. But again, from a standpoint of which one I prefer, that would be my preference.
Yeah, and what we would do is, we were very deliberate for putting a motion directing staff to solicit bids for property disposals, the next item on the agenda. By doing that, rather than doing a solicitation for a demolition, we can do a request for proposals that would allow for someone to come in and make a proposal, open the door for relocation of the building, for example. And even under that criteria, if the building was going to be demolished, particularly with the old urban vintage building. That one was made with bricks that were done in Marion, and we would require that the bricks be salvaged and provided back to the city so that we could use them either as part of one of these projects or for a project in the uptown area.
Other questions or comments? Yes,
Your
sir.
Honor.
Oh, yes.
Your Honor.
Councilman Draper?
Yeah, I would hope that as we solicit these bids, we would include giving the building at 520 12th Street free to anyone who wanted to move it. Historically, it's an important building. It would be neat if somebody would take it and move it to a site close to downtown. So I hope we include that in our proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, what I would anticipate with that is that the solicitation would basically invite them to come forward and make a proposal to the city, because we know that the building, if it moves, is going to need some work. It would be part of an overall package to work out what it would take to make it work.
They hear that, Buster?
One more quick question, Lon. Is there even an estimated timeline? I know there's a lot of still moving pieces, but as it relates to that whole block, what do you see as a potential timeline on when this parkade would or should start?
At this point, I think the most realistic thing would be to have it potentially starting in April of next year. Looking at where we are right now, by the time we come back to the council to show you the RFP, get authorization to put out the RFP, that's probably 30 days. We'd want it to be out for minimum 30 to 60 days, and then a little time to review any proposals that came in. I don't see a way that it could move faster than that.
Okay, very good.
Even that's probably a little aggressive.
Sounds, yeah.
Councilmember Sternad.
Yes, Your Honor. Lon, again, I'll come back to this question here. I just want to make sure, because this is such a large component to our uptown here, that I understand that there's a lot of developers waiting for this component to this. Without being 101% certain that all of these dominoes are going to fall in the proper order that they are, I feel as if, though, we need to move forward on this on two other major projects. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. I'm just concerned, my only concern is if these projects do not follow through once this is built. I just feel like this is a major momentum projects here that, and we all know what projects are tied to this, but if this does go through and then all of a sudden the other components don't come through, are we prepared for that, and do we have these things in proper order?
Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say that this is going to be the most robust development agreement that we've done on any project that we've brought in front of the City Council to date. Our attorney firm that does those for us has some ideas on what we can build in for protections to make sure that something like that were to not happen. That is one of the things, though, that's nice about being a developer-led project, is that it's incumbent upon the developer to provide the parking ramp, and if you think of it in broad terms, it becomes a series of if-then statements. The way that this would be phrased is, yes, the city would be agreeing to an economic development incentive that'll get the parking ramp started, but if the developer doesn't in turn turn around and complete the building on the existing library site, they don't get anything. That's part of the appeal to it, is that, we're not putting ourselves at risk where we're saying we have to do something with this. Now, there's a risk there if they tear out the existing parking lots, get halfway through, and you end up with a partially finished building. There is some risk. I don't want to say there's not, but it would be intended to ensure that the community isn't assuming additional or undue financial risk once the first domino starts to go.
Thank you, and that's exactly what I was leaning to, because I know we all understand what the intentions are with everything, but it just seems like you said, this is just the understanding of moving forward with staff and directing staff to proceed with the process of it. Obviously, there's many more meetings to come prior to this, so yeah. I think my reservations and concerns will be, I'll be able to address those as we move forward, as we all will be concerned with those issues as well too. So I just want to make sure that we're all moving in proper steps to that. So thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
The next step after this would be the developer can then start working on the pro forma to get a memorandum of agreement in front of the City Council, which would actually contain, I think, a lot of the details that the Council is really hungry for. But to develop the pro forma, they need to know, am I doing a half block ramp or a full block ramp?
You're going to kind of follow up.
Yes, sir.
As a follow-up that then to Lon, then When that comes out, then would the developers to the adjacent properties, would we all come together then as a MOU? I'm assuming we have to agree to the same MOU on all three parties as we move forward with that, correct?
There's two MOUs, one with one owner and one with the other owner, but there would be two separate ones that would encompass both pieces of the project.
And those would be excluding the developer of the ramp, correct?
No, the developer of the ramp would be ramp, existing library site, and then you'd have the other MOU with Genesis for the Marion Square Mall site. So there's two of them that would be in front of council.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Do you have the direction you're looking for on this particular one?
Yep, then the next one would be the motion when, I guess since Randy gets to be the lucky one, to make the motion to proceed with whichever parking ramp design the council seems to be leaning towards.
Does anyone else have any questions still on number one with the discussion before we move on to that? Okay, Randy.
Your Honor, I would then move to make a motion to approve or to allow the directing of staff to proceed with the parking ramp design.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Stranad and a second by Mr. Brandt, directing staff to proceed with the parking ramp design. Any discussion? Steve?
Do we need to clarify half block or full block ramp here?
Oh, that's,
Yep.
okay.
I think that's the
Apologize.
other piece they really need.
Yep. Okay, so,
I've spoken
Yeah.
what I think.
I agree. Colette, you're up.
I would support the full block design as well.
Okay. Will?
Full block.
Andy?
Full block.
Paul?
Paul?
Yes,
Do you support the full block parking ramp design or the half block parking ramp design?
first of all, I'd like to see the half block, maybe another story. And I would think if we're going to vote on this issue that we should correct it before we vote on it.
I missed the last part.
We should correct it before we vote on it.
Correct what?
Correct what?
Well, it needs to either say a whole full block or a half block. My opinion.
Correct the motion.
Oh, correct the motion?
The motion.
He's talking about correcting the
Oh,
motion.
for number two. Okay. Can we add that language in, or do we need to restate since it sounds like we have a majority for the full block?
I would see if legal has any opinion, but certainly the predominance of the council seems to proceed with full block. So it was put on the agenda as a motion to proceed just with parking ramp design, but we were seeking direction from council. I feel like I have enough. I don't know that the motion needs to be more specific.
Mr. Tang?
Thank you. I guess what it comes down to is this a substantial change in the wording of the item that's on the agenda. And I guess in my judgment, obviously, legal's position is always one of caution, and I would recommend bringing it back with it being properly worded to fit what the council's action is going to take. Now, if in the event the council did not agree and didn't view it as a substantial change, the council could proceed accordingly with it amended now, but I would recommend that it come back properly worded.
Okay, so why don't we just take care of it now and amend it?
I'm fine with that.
Someone want to make a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion to amend this item directing to direct staff to proceed with a full block parking ramp design.
Second.
Okay, we have an amended motion on the table from Mr. Jensen and a second by Mr. Brandt to direct staff for a full block parking ramp design. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say no. And those abstaining?
Aye.
Okay. That's it.
Actually, that was the motion to amend, so now you'd need to vote on the motion.
I'm I'm sorry, I missed that. We were just discussing if
Oh.
Paul actually got his vote heard. Paul,
Yes.
did you agree to the amended motion for the full block parking ramp design?
I did.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. We just wanted to clarify for the record.
So that vote was on the motion to amend, so you still have now the overriding vote on the amended motion. It still needs action.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that? All right. So we are taking a vote on the amended motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. And those abstaining.
Aye.
Okay. That's all.
Your Honor, I move to approve motion directing staff to solicit bids for property disposals of 525 11th Street and 520 12th Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to solicit bids for property disposals for 525 11th Street and 520 12th Street. Discussion. Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. I think we need to make this very clear that as we look at this property, and I'm not sure what the process is for this, but, you know, we make it public in our hearings, we make this public to record, but is there a way to formalize that these properties are available for relocation, for sale, for consideration in conjunction with this? Or is there some way that we're formalizing this and making it publicly aware that these buildings are available? Can anyone, I'll look at both of you. We'll go with engineering.
Yeah, when we write it, actually the first time we bid it, that's how they are done as a disposal, because whether the property is moved, demoed, or fixed where it is, we're disposing of it from the city books, and that's why it's called a disposal. So for example, when we did 3630 Winslow, we actually sold that mobile home. So that was disposing of public property. And so we have to do that anytime we dispose of it.
And can you clarify, was it just simply a citizen coming forward that had heard about it? Did they see it? Was it published? Is it by word of mouth? How do we handle that?
Yeah, what we'll do on this one is we'll reach out to the historic group and try and get it publicized more.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Randy, good idea. I mean, I'd also suggest, I think we're all kind of wanting to say, what can we do with these homes? Can a place be found for them? And I know we got a great newspaper in our town that might be able to spin another article specifically for those homes. That might give it a little more publicity. I would encourage that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we're all saying is that we want to see a serious effort to
Right.
End up with these homes being saved to the greatest extent possible. If somebody wants to, or I guess one of them at least, move it, that's the best option. If somebody wants to, or if we can salvage the bricks and use them somewhere else, or use them in the other projects, then that's also good. But we want to see an actual concerted effort to make this, to publicize that these are available, and that we want to see a proposal for them. So, okay, other discussion? Yes, sir.
I
Mr.
would,
Grant.
I would hope to see that not only are we publicizing it, but we're also, the request for the disposal would be, like you said, 36 longer, like a 60-day request. I mean, just so that it's not they're not getting torn down before they need to be torn down. It kind of goes back to potentially saving if 6 weeks from now someone finally comes forward and wants to move them. We don't make a snap.
Because there's no urgency for this,
There's no
for the
urgency,
space
right.
at this time.
Yeah. So hopefully that's how.
Well, if you think, again, it depends on what we would receive for proposals, but that will have an influence on the project, because if someone does come forward and makes a proposal to relocate the house, again, going back to the timeline that I was talking about, if we're reviewing proposals in February, certainly they're not going to be putting a foundation in the ground, bringing in a house mover to be moving the house at that point. So it will have an impact on the timeline, but that would be part of what they would propose to us as part of their proposal for doing the relocation project. And then we just take a look at the calendar they're coming up with and then work with that.
Mr. Sternad.
Mike, can you tell me what is our normal practice in asking for bids on that for that removing of it? Is it a 30-day, 60-day? What's the lock-in period? And can I ask you, do you feel that we need to maybe alter this one for any additional or extended time period given the circumstances?
We'll do this. Typically, it's 30 days. It was just a demolition or even a bid for a street reconstruction. It's typically a minimum of 30 days. You can do it a shorter period of time based on state law, but we like to give them 30 days. They tend to wait till last minute anyways. For this one, we'll just kind of look at it and see, like, for example, 525, we'll probably have clauses in there that if they are going to demo the property, that they have to salvage and stockpile all the bricks so they can be reused, stuff like that, so that when they're putting their proposals together, they see that.
But I just want to be clear what you understand his question. His question is not once they present the proposal and it's accepted, how long do they have? It's how long do we give people to respond before we make a decision?
Yeah, so typically it's 30 days. For this, we will have to look at it and see what we think as far as time.
Yeah.
This
I
is
guess
a new
my
hybrid.
view is that it'll take somebody more than 30 days to figure out how to make this work if they're interested.
Yep.
So in
And-
30 days, I don't think you'll get a serious
And we'll
proposal.
talk to the building department. They had 2 houses that were moved next to the mini roundabout, and we can see what kind of time frame was taken for those as well. So, I mean, we'll look at it and find out. I just don't know off the top of my head.
The other thing too is we received a bid for the one contractor, and then we were pushed to the point where obviously we either had to void that contract obviously and eliminate it. I just didn't know if we could secure something that gave us a little bit more of a margin of time in there as well too, given the circumstances, time of year and everything else that's going to be related to that. So not to belittle
Yes.
this topic, but it is a huge one. We sent it out for bids and we get 30 days. We're not going to be any closer to this before Christmas than we are today. So
No, but there's certain things that you can put in it. So there's the date that you accept the contract, and then there's the date that they actually start. And that's typical for most projects. We try and bid as many projects as we can during the winter, having a late start date of April 15th. And so there's 2 different dates. And there's the date that you actually accept the contract because, say it's a signal project, it takes 20 weeks to get those poles in. And so you want to give them that lead time. They're not going to order the poles till they sign the contract.
right.
And then give them that lead time, and then it starts later.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Discussion? Okay. So, ready to vote? All those in...
Nick,
Yes, sir, Mr.
One more
Brandt.
question. So with that, the RFP for the demolition or disposal of the properties, will that come back to us for approval?
The proposals that would be forwarded would come back to the council for approval, just like
Not
any
the-
other contract, anything like that.
But not the actual request for us to
We'll
approve?
include it so you have a chance to review it.
Okay. That'd be good, thank you.
Yeah, good thought. Okay. We ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion to direct staff to solicit bids for property disposals for 525 11th Street and 520 12th Street, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no.
No.
We have 1 no. The motion is approved. Mr. Jensen?
Your Honor, I make a motion to pass, or to approve resolution number 27307, accepting bids and awarding contract with Rachi Construction Company regarding the 53540 12th Street property disposal project in the amount of $24,500.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27307, accepting bids and awarding contract with Rachi Construction Company regarding 530, 540 12th Street property disposal project in the amount of $24,500. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Mike.
Yes, sir.
So just so you're aware, basically we wrote it to avoid some confusion last time with amending the motion. So we either need to approve Resolution 27307 and 27308, approve both of them or reject both of them. And then if you accept those two, then you would reject 27309, or vice versa if you want to. So it's basically, do you want to dispose of the property now, or would you rather it go out with the others as a package deal?
Okay. We have alternative resolutions there.
Correct. Because we don't have a Thursday work with the work session being combined.
Understood. Okay. Discussion on resolution number 27307. Okay. All those in favor of resolution number 27307, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
We have one no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27308, approving contract with Rashi Construction Company regarding the 530, 540 12th Street property disposal project in the amount of $24,500.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27308, approving the contract with Rachi Construction Company regarding 530, 540 12th Street property disposal project in the amount of $24,500. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 27308, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
One no. The motion is approved. So we don't need to deal with number 6. We just
Yeah, you could strike number 6 from the agenda.
Your Honor.
Number 6 is struck from the agenda, sir.
Ready?
Go ahead. Yes.
Your Honor, make a motion to receive and file a request to waive the final reading to approve the rezoning of property south of Blair's Ferry Road, north of Twixtown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard, and this is from DeLong Development Company, L.C.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to receive and file a request to waive the final reading to approve the rezoning of property south of Blair's Ferry Road, north of Twixtown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard. Discussion on the motion to receive and file the request. Okay, all those in favor of receiving and filing the request to waive final reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-37, approving the rezoning of property south of Blair's Ferry Road, north of Twixtown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard from R2 medium-density single-family residential to C3 general commercial. This is DeLong Development Company, LC, second reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the second reading of ordinance number 18-37, approving the rezoning of property south of Blair's Ferry Road, north of Twixtown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard from R2 medium-density single-family residential to C3 general commercial. Discussion on the ordinance to rezone. Okay, all those in favor of ordinance 18-37, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to make motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 18-37 on the agenda for adoption and to adopt ordinance number 18-37.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules and move to the final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 18-37. Discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Cadela?
Just clarification, this would, if we vote in favor of this, we are voting to waive the third reading.
We're voting to waive the third reading and adopting the final ordinance.
Okay. I just want to explain that I will be voting no because it's going from R2 residential to commercial. I think that's a pretty significant change, and while I don't believe we've had any correspondence for it, I believe we should go through all three because there are some residential properties adjacent to a piece of the land. So,
Has there been any communication from neighbors?
No, there has not.
None? Okay. And what's the reason is there an urgency that are they planning to do something?
We're just responding to the petitioner's request.
Right, but their request, is it motivated by a need that they need to? Because I didn't understand that they were actually doing anything, that this is just a rezoning to
I don't know. I'm
fix the
assuming
zoning.
that it has something to do with the rezoning for the Long Branch and not necessarily the residential area, the second rezoning that's still on the agenda.
Okay, Councilmember Gadela.
yeah, I looked at what their application said, and it didn't have a time-sensitive nature. It just said that they were going to then pursue their PIP. So that was another reason where I didn't feel like we needed to rush.
Other discussion or questions on this? Yes, sir, Mr. Jensen.
My comment is I'm fine with this, especially since we've had no comments at all on it, so I'd be fine moving ahead.
And signs were posted as normal, and the neighbors all get a mailing?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and move to the final adoption of Ordinance 18-37, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
One no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-38, approving the rezoning of property south of Blairs Ferry Road, north of Twickstown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard from R2 medium-density single-family residential to R6 high-density multiple-family residential. DeLong Development Company, LC, second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Ordinance 18-38, approving the rezoning of property south of Blairs Ferry Road, north of Twickstown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard from R2 medium-density single-family residential to R6 high-density multifamily residential. Discussion. This is the second reading. Okay, no discussion. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-38, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 18-38 on the agenda for adoption and to adopt ordinance number 18-38.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules and move to the final consideration of ordinance 18-38. Discussion. Again, was there any communication on this one from neighbors?
No.
None? Okay. Any discussion on motion to suspend the rules and move to final adoption of 18-38? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
One no. The motion is approved.
I'll read this one. I make a motion to approve Resolution 27310, approving the final plat and memorandum of agreement for DeLong First Edition located south of Blairs Ferry Road, north of Twickstown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard. DeLong Development Company, LC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27310, approving the final plat and memorandum of agreement for DeLong First Edition, located south of Blairs Ferry Road, north of Twickstown Road, and west of Marion Boulevard. Discussion on the motion to approve the final plat and memorandum of agreement. Okay, all those in favor of Resolution 27310, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. Mr. Sternad?
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve ordinance number 18-25, approving the revision of Chapter 176 Marion zoning ordinance for approval of an amendment to Chapter 176.32, accessory building and uses of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding accessory building and uses. Final consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 18-25, approving the revision of Chapter 176 of the zoning ordinance for approval of an amendment to Chapter 176.32, accessory buildings and uses. This is the final consideration. Discussion.
You know where I stand.
Okay, all those in favor of the final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 18-25, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
1 no. The motion is approved. Okay, for this next one, I will turn over the gavel.
Okay.
Public hearing.
Yep. So we're going to have a public hearing on proposed development agreement with Integrity Companies, LLC. Before we get to that, is there any presentation?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll take advantage of this to talk about why there's so many different items and actions related to tax increment financing on the agenda before we launch into these. Several years ago, the state of Iowa changed the law related to tax increment financing and actually made the process for going through and approving a development agreement much more burdensome. Essentially what they did is before you would adopt what's called an urban renewal plan for an area, and after you adopted the urban renewal plan, the city was free to do any projects underneath that under a general authorization for specific types. So the city could say, we're going to do infrastructure projects, and you could go out, you could incur any debt related to that without having to have revisit the urban renewal plan. When the law was changed, you now have to specifically name each individual project in your urban renewal plan. And so after that, with the activity that Marion has, what we were discovering is that virtually every city council meeting we were amending one urban renewal plan or another. I mean, it was creating a lot of work as far as keeping track of it and incurring a lot of additional legal expense, because when our attorneys prepare an urban renewal plan amendment, the cost between preparing an urban renewal plan amendment that names 5 projects and one that names 1 project is almost indistinguishable. It takes very little extra effort to just put in the descriptions of the extra projects. So if we have one that has 5 in it, we're not paying for 5 sets of proceedings. We're not paying for 5 sets of public hearings for everything that they have to put together for it. So it was a cost-saving measure, but it also then tends to do this where you stack up projects. In this case, these have been stacking up for a year, and they're all being brought forward with 2 different urban renewal plan amendments, then followed by the approvals on the development agreements themselves. So the first one is a public hearing for an agreement with Integrity Companies. This is for a contractor condo project that they're doing out in the old Marion Commerce Park, across from where the the Linmar Bus Barn is located. And we're helping to defray the costs of putting sprinklers in that are not required by code. If the council would remember, one of the challenges that we have with contractor condos is if they don't put sprinklers in, it becomes quite an enforcement issue for the fire department. Not necessarily through the fault of the users, but if they start a new business and start out with small equipment, they're okay. But as they get bigger and get larger, there are thresholds that they meet where you can't store equipment of a certain scale inside of a building without sprinklers. So in the interest of public safety, one, it makes it a better product for us to have buildings sprinkled, but it also expands their range of uses.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this development agreement with Integrity? please come forward at this time and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, if there's anyone who would like to speak against or ask a question regarding this development agreement, please come forward. Okay. Public hearing is closed. Colette?
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27311, approving development agreement Integrity Companies LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
You're okay, honey.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Atkins and a second by Mr. Jensen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution number 27311, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And any abstaining?
Yeah, aye.
Okay.
Keep hold on it for that.
Okay, next we have a public hearing on a proposed development agreement with J Lens LLC. Public hearing is now open. Do you have a brief presentation on this or not? Yeah.
Yeah, again, this one is actually in the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area and is a project that we've been holding for a while. The Uptown Dental project took an old service station. They had to remediate some brownfield conditions and combine a couple of parcels to be able to redevelop that property. So in this instance, it's a 5-year, 60% rebate with a maximum of $85,000, most of which was related to remediation of brownfield conditions and stormwater expenses.
Is it hurting you? Is the tape off?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions? None? Okay. Is there anyone here who is here to speak in favor of this project, or this measure? Please come forward. Anyone in opposition? Please come forward. Okay, the public hearing is now closed.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27312, approving development agreement with J Lands LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27312, approving the development agreement with J Lens LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. Discussion.
Will it be much longer?
All those in favor of resolution number 27312, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. We have another public hearing on the proposed development agreement with Culver Enterprises LLC. The public hearing is now open.
Wait a little bit.
Mr. Pluckon?
Yeah, this is another project that the city is assisting with the cost of defraying sprinklers. It's another multi-tenant unit where the buildings are underneath the size threshold where they would be automatically required.
Well,
Okay.
well, whatever.
At this time, if there is there anyone in the audience to address the council in favor of this measure, please come forward. Anyone in opposition? Please come forward. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Have any comments been received outside of the meetings on any of these?
None by my office.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Your Honor, make a motion to approve resolution number 27313, approving development agreement with Culver Enterprises LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27313, approving the development agreement with Culver Enterprises LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of resolution 27313, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. We have another public hearing on a proposed development agreement with KTRO LLC. The public hearing is now open.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. This one might be more familiar to people as the Ecolips project. KTRO purchased the former Squaw Creek Millwork building and did extensive renovations to it to allow for Ecolips to move their manufacturing operations and office operations in there. One thing I would note on this one is that we'll complete the public hearing, but we would ask that we table Resolution 27314. As we were moving through the process and consulting with Lynn County, we may have an additional step or two we need to go through in order to get this one fully approved. So the hearing, though, was published. It would not affect the amount of the incentive, so we're free to hold the hearing, go ahead and do that, and then we'll table Resolution 27314.
Okay, is that clear? Okay, is there anyone here to address the council in favor of this measure? Anyone in opposition, please come forward. And have we received any comments?
No.
None. Okay. So please let the record reflect that, please. Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Will someone make the motion to table Resolution 27314?
I will, Your Honor. I move to table resolution number 27314, approving the development agreement with KTRO LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table resolution number 27314, approving the development agreement with KTRO LLC. Discussion on the motion to table. All those in favor of tabling resolution 27314, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. We have another public hearing at this time regarding...
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Can I interrupt a minute?
Go ahead.
I have a bit of an emergency, nothing serious, but I'm going to have to sign off.
Okay.
I thank everybody for their visits, their flowers, and their prayers. All of you later.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Thank you.
We'll proceed with the public hearing on the proposed development agreement with Timberline Manufacturing Company. The public hearing is now open.
Thank you, Your Honor. Of all the development agreements tonight, this is the largest project that's proposed. Timberline is constructing a new manufacturing facility in Marion with a total investment of about $10.2 million. In this case, the city is providing a tax rebate of overall 8 years. The first 7 years would be 60%, with the last year being 20% at a maximum of $800,000. The company did receive a state incentive award that requires a local match, so when that happens, we target our assistance to making sure that the state match requirement is met.
Okay. We'll proceed with the public hearing. Is there anyone here to address the council in favor of this measure? Anyone here to address the council in opposition? Okay, and have we received any comments for or against? None?
Nope.
Okay. We will close the public hearing.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27315, approving development agreement with Timberline Manufacturing Company, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27315, approving the development agreement with Timberline Manufacturing Company, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. Discussion. All those in favor of resolution 27315, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. Mr. Jensen. Oh, no, we have another public hearing regarding amendment of the urban renewal plan for the Collins Road Extension Urban Renewal Area. The public hearing is now open. Mr. Pluckon?
Yeah, so this is the amendment to the urban renewal plan that specifically names the projects that the council has been acting on. So like in this case, for example, the Integrity Project is in the Collins Road Extension area, so this adds the detail related to that to the urban renewal plan. After this, we'll have one more public hearing on the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Plan amendment.
Thank you. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here to address the council in favor of this measure? Please come forward. Anyone in opposition? Please come forward. Okay, seeing that there are none, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any comments on this one that were received?
Nope.
Okay.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27316 to approve urban renewal plan amendment for the Collins Road Extension Urban Renewal Area.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27316, approving the urban renewal plan amendment for Collins Road Extension Urban Renewal Area. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 27316, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved. We have a public hearing at this time on a proposed amendment to the urban renewal plan for the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Pluckon?
Yeah, this is the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area, so this one would encompass the Timberline project, the J-Lens project. Again, is simply adding those program statements to the urban renewal plan.
Okay. At this time, if anyone is here to address the council in favor of this resolution or this measure, please come forward. Anyone here to address the council in opposition? Please come forward. And were there any comments received?
Nope.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 27317 to approve urban renewal plan amendment for the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27317, approving the urban renewal plan amendment for the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area. Discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 27317, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to make motion directing staff to negotiate a program agreement and lease agreement to develop the Marion Enterprise Network.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Sternad, seconded by Councilmember Gadela, to direct staff to negotiate a program agreement and lease agreement to develop the Marion Enterprise Network. This is what we heard about in the presentation from Mr. Glue at the beginning of the meeting. Any discussion on this?
Yes.
I
Mr. Brandt.
apologize for being late today.
Okay.
So I missed this. And is there a way to get like a 30-second overview so I know what I'm voting on?
Let me attempt to summarize. It's a good thing.
Okay.
Essentially what Medco Holding has been working on is a way to leverage the fiber that exists out in the Marion Enterprise Center. And part of that means that they would like to be able to use some of our system, our infrastructure, to provide a pipeline out to Involta to benefit companies that have high data needs that could locate at the MEC.
So it's a lease to use our fiber?
Correct.
Okay.
That we're not currently using.
Thank you.
Other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor of resolution number...
Directing staff, Your Honor.
All those in favor of the motion to direct staff to negotiate a program agreement and lease agreement to develop the Marion Enterprise Network, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution Number 27318, approving Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with Synergy Equity Partners, LLC regarding tax increment financing, TIF incentives.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27318, approving a memorandum of understanding with Synergy Equity Partners, LLC regarding tax increment financing incentives. We have had the presentation on this previously, but do you want to just summarize?
Yeah, this is the first project that we're doing underneath the acceleration clause that's allowed in the city's economic development policy. And what we've tried to do is to craft an incentive package to allow the developer to be able to target specific businesses that are ones that are in the city's plan for that area. So in this case, we're specifically looking at restaurants, not fast casual, not fast food, but more of an actual sit-down type of restaurant. It's been challenging because until Tower Terrace Road is connected over to C Avenue, they're out there competing in an environment where you've got new developments over at places like Target, at the Fountains in Cedar Rapids. It just is very challenging to recruit restaurants to come out there. So as I had alluded to before, it's kind of an if-then statement. If they're successful in recruiting qualifying businesses, there's a process then for them to certify that back to the city and then receive the incentive. We've maxed it out at $30,000 per year for a maximum of 5 years or $150,000. But it's a way to kind of hopefully kickstart some development out there and bring some businesses in.
Okay. Any discussion?
The other thing I would note, Mayor, is that in fairness, they are competing with projects that have received subsidies from neighboring communities. So in essence, we're trying to level the playing field a bit.
Okay. True. Councilmember Gadela.
Yeah, as the Ward 4 rep, I think it's very fair to say that I've heard from a lot of constituents that we need exactly this kind of business coming in along Tower Terrace. So it's welcome, it's due, and it's great to see some commercial going in along Tower Terrace. The building looks great.
Building does look great. Other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of resolution number 27318, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion is approved. This time we have a discussion regarding fiscal year 2019 to 2024 capital improvement program.
Thank you, Your Honor. I know this is a topic that the City Council has heard a lot about recently. Between the last formal presentation and tonight, we had the opportunity to meet with several City Council members to present some of the potential financial impacts and receive some additional guidance on it. And what you see in front of you tonight is actually a scenario, some information on what scenario B looks like, but also ask the staff, based on council input, to run a scenario C. And What Scenario C does is moves into a realm of what I would consider be how we would actively manage the capital improvements program once it's in place. So for example, if you look at the original CIP documents, you'll see that the Plaza project would be proposed at $4 million. Well, realistically, are we going to proceed with a project like that of that scale at $4 million without having some additional financial resources, grants, and other things available to help support that? I wouldn't recommend to council that we proceed with a project of that scale without donations, other grants to be able to help with that. So we've reduced some of those numbers to reflect what the actual anticipated local share would be. We've also been more aggressive about the use of local option sales tax for cash on hand for some earlier year projects, and then also have made some changes in the projects that are included overall in the CIP. The large sheets that you have that put options B and C side by side, as you go onto the additional sheets, you can actually see what programs down at the very bottom are not included or not proposed to be done. So you can see the ones that are not planned and not funded under that time window, and you can really see when you look at the two lists how much of a difference there is between Scenario B and the new Scenario C. So it does make use of general obligation debt, but what we tried to do was to target it to try to provide a good balance between what the impact would be on properties, on property taxes, and then also on utility fees. One of the other items that came out of those meetings with council members was to be a little bit less conservative in projecting that financial impact. So to use, for example, a 3% growth rate, anticipated growth rate in city valuation. If you look over 10 years, we've, for the last decade, we've been a little bit above that. So I think at least the bulk of the council members that were able to provide input felt that 3% was a realistic number for us to use to project those scenarios going forward. So if you take a look at what that does for a $100,000 house, we would expect in FY20 that the amount that they pay towards the property taxes for debt service would go up $11.15. And we'll provide this document for you so you can look at it in more detail. Overall, this is a breakdown of the different funding sources that we would expect to use. You can see that by layering together the local option sales tax along with utility revenues, we are concentrating heavily on being able to pay for items as we go, but still have additional debt between revenue debt, which we have not historically used, and general obligation debt to be able to finance some of these projects. So by category, you can see that transportation is still the largest category, followed closely by culture and recreation, although culture and recreation is driven in total numbers on large part by the library project. And then utility infrastructure project and public works. Public works, a lot of that is driven by the new public services facility. This is some information that the council had been asking for about how Marion compares to other communities as far as the property tax rate. What do we look like in relation to our peer communities for debt to valuation ratio? So I know this one's a little hard to read at your scale, but like the first community there is Bettendorf. So their debt to valuation ratio is about 3.7%. Cedar Falls is extremely low at 0.4%, but the big difference between us and Cedar Falls is that they have a very robust municipal utility, including an electric utility that finances a lot of the things that they do, particularly economic development activities. Marion is at 1.9, Urbandale is at 1.5, Iowa City is at 1, Coralville is up here at 4.2, Clive at 1.2, and Cedar Rapids is currently running about 2.8. So what does that mean long-term under Scenario C for total borrowing? Right now, we've got about $54 million in outstanding general obligation debt. With this plan, that would end up peaking at about $63 million in 2023 and then going down to $61 million in 2024. But you can see that the percentage would be very consistent. We're hovering right around that 40% as far as the amount of our debt capacity that we're actually using. Keep in mind that part and parcel of that is that as our valuation goes up by 3% a year, so does our debt capacity, but we're keeping that ratio fairly consistent. And then here's the tax rate impact. The next slide that I'll show you probably will give you a little bit more detail for the three scenarios relative to each other, but this one just shows what it looks like overall on a 3% growth. We anticipate 3% growth. So right now we're at 1422 for the current fiscal year. By 2024, assuming 3% growth, it would end up at 1548. That does include the assumption that we would have the full CIP levy voted in at 67.5 cents. So that does drive that number quite a bit. But here's the one that I think really is telling. The bottom line, the green line down here, is what option A looks like. That was the most conservative of the scenarios, the least number of projects with a 3% growth assumption. So you end up at the end of 5 years under that one at $15.24. The scenario C that I asked the staff to look at based on a 3% growth scenario at the end of 5 years is $15.48. So it's about 24 cents per thousand higher compared to scenario B, which was the aggressive all-in scenario that actually would have had us at about $16.42. So that was why I really wanted to take the time to have the staff look at doing scenario C. We've got time between now and the public hearing, a couple of weeks for the council to take a look at these two side by side. You'll be able to see which projects are included, which ones are not. The big thing that I would say that has changed is that these scenarios, both scenario C and scenario A, we're not funding Alburnett Road extension. As Councilman Jensen correctly observed many moons ago when we started on this, the only way to really move the needle on these is you have to talk about the big projects. There simply aren't enough of them in there at $100,000 here or $200,000 there to really seriously move those numbers one way or another. And as I started thinking through our projects, which ones do we have stranded commitments on? We need to finish Central Corridor. We've got a lot of grant dollars riding on the completion of Tower Terrace Road between Alburnett and C. So of the ones that we could reach a logical stopping point on, it was the Alburnett Road Bridge project. We're also being less aggressive in the out years with the future extension of Tower Terrace Road. But again, thinking through which pieces are likely to develop more slowly. My impression has always been that from 35th Street West was going to be where the development is going to occur more quickly. Going from 35th Street East is likely to take longer. And frankly, we have some other options to help be able to finance some of those pieces out there. So overall, I feel like scenario C is a realistic, workable blend of the two scenarios. It's a little bit higher than the low growth scenario, but does let us complete substantially more projects over that period of time. Now, that being said, it's not so aggressive that we still have a lot of opportunities to be able to outperform that plan. And the one thing I want to stress for council is, and I think sometimes there's an impression in the public that just because we adopt this plan, it's going to go on autopilot. There are literally dozens of more times that the city council will touch this plan. If you think about these large projects, engineering never proceeds with a street project that they're going to design without coming to council for authorization to start the project calendar for it. Even when it comes to things like issuing bonds, the city council will debate the sizing of the bonds, what the bonds are going to be used for before we can ever proceed with that. So this is in no way blanket authorization to just go forth and do all of these projects. So if we have a few years in there, like 2 years ago, where we have almost a 7% growth rate, these numbers start to look a lot better in a real hurry. Conversely, if we have a 2% growth rate, the way that we've got this plan structured right now, the city council has opportunities to either step on the brake or step on the accelerator based on our real world experience. The biggest advantage, though, with the coming adoption of this is that now we have a plan to evaluate our performance against and report back to you on where we're sitting and what either opportunities we have that will present themselves because we've had a good year or a couple of really good years, or where we might need to scale it back because we haven't reached what we thought our growth targets would be.
Okay. Was that it for you, Lon, or are you ready for questions? Or
Yeah, go ahead. Ready for questions.
questions? Mr. Jensen?
I mean, I'll just give my overall comment. I've kind of done this in the past, but again, I think from the standpoint of everybody looking at this document and working with this document, is that this is a key part of the city's 5-year strategic plan. Again, a strategic plan is simply a snapshot of what we think may happen in the future, subject to change, subject to looking at all the assumptions that are reviewed on a periodic basis. This plan, as we put it together a year from now, is going to look a lot different. This already looks a lot different than the CIP put together a year ago. So I think from that standpoint, what is being trying to present here is kind of an overall direction that the city has an opportunity to take. It's a reflection upon all of the growth and the demand that is out there. Again, keep in mind that this is basically a small subset or a smaller subset of what we started looking at from the very beginning. So there has been a lot of dollars, a lot of projects already cut out. I think this will be, I'd call this the third phase of reducing projects, trying to get to something that even though that chart there reflects an increase in the overall levy rate, it does reflect, I think, a lot of effort to get this to a point in which we need to be able to still provide meaningful services and growth for this city.
So, Lon, with Alburnett Road, scenario C with Alburnett Road, that would be somewhere in between C and B?
If we were to include Alburnett Road, the yellow line would have to move up.
Right.
Yep.
But not all the way to...
No, the option C was really all in. If we were to
That was
exhaust
everything.
practically every financing option available to us, what could you achieve?
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the implication of delaying Alburnett Road? Because we've talked about that we really need it. You know, the bottleneck on 10th Street, and you know,
Yeah.
it's really needed. But
And that's where I think the opportunity, if we're successful in outperforming our plan, then that would be one of my first priority projects to put back in. But just the reality of it is, overall, if it was just one piece here or there, we could make it fit. But when you start looking at a $10 million project overall, it really has a big impact on the CIP. There will be some impacts to it. We'll still be able to proceed with the removal of the bridge and getting some of the area ready, because that's part of the Seymour Trail project. So we'll do some of the prep work. We've already bought a lot of the property that we're going to need to be able to do the project. So we're queued up to be ready when the financial resources present themselves. As the Central Corridor TIF district expands and builds some financial capacity, that'll free up some additional resources, and we'll continue to beat the bushes for grant opportunities for some of our other projects. If we're successful in leveraging other dollars to help with some of the things that we're showing that we're paying for directly now, again, that would open up additional resources to do it. The biggest impact is going to be felt probably down in the 10th Street area, because 6th Street and 10th Street will still see a lot of that cut through traffic, making those left turns that you would ultimately be able to divert over to Alburnett Road. We still need to proceed with the renaming of Alburnett Road, so that section we can still get done so that we no longer have two of them. We'll have the plans done, so we'll know essentially what we're going to build, and be ready to go with it once we have the money to be able to do it.
so the planning that's currently in process, that'll continue?
We would want to finish out the existing contracts that we have.
And where will that take us then, when we finish those existing contracts, then what will we have done?
That's a Mike question.
The contract that we have with Schneider and Associates right now is to design the actual bridge, and they've actually applied for the core permit, so we'll have to, if we don't fund it, we'll have to let that expire. And then it's putting the box culvert under the Central Avenue Bridge that creates the backwater. And so it was the plan to design those two aspects of it. For the bridge, it was basically the north side of the bridge through the intersection of 8th Avenue is where that was going to stop, and so it was going to be full construction plans. So other than the permit, we can put that on the shelf for now until we have available funding.
So what's in process now and the money that's being spent on that, it's still going to be used?
It's still going to be valid other than the permit. We'll have to pay to have that when we're ready to build it. It's only good for so long, and so if we don't build it, now that we've applied for the permit, which takes a year.
We have
to get,
applied for the permit?
We've already applied for the permit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of get a handle on what the implications are of delaying that project, since we are already in process. The bridge is, how much of that 10 million is the bridge?
It's about 4.5, Mike.
Yeah, sounds right. I don't have it right in front of me.
Yeah.
And then one aspect is we are combining the Albernet Road Bridge wetlands with the Indian Creek Trail wetlands, and so we'll have to figure out how we do that. But we were going to disturb those wetlands as part of the bridge project. If we're not going to proceed with the bridge project, that we'll have to figure out how we do that with the trail. But that's something that we can work on. That might make the trail project a little more complicated, but we'll work with Kesha on that.
Okay. Overall, though, I mean, I think I echo what Steve said, and I think it's very. I feel like we've made a lot of progress in terms of being more organized and methodical in how we approach this subject altogether. This is a great start, and it can change a year from now. I mean, or 2-3 years from now, based on what the reality is. So, but at least we have a roadmap. Ms. Gadela.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for continuing to be creative and trim as we've had questions and offer opportunities for us to come in and get more information. Can you walk us through the timeline of the next steps now that we're looking at this tonight, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, the next step, the next item on the agenda would be to set a public hearing for the adoption of the CIP. And I would anticipate that either during the public hearing or in the run-up to the public hearing, we'll do a final presentation. I know that you'll have questions after you pour through these, and if you could send them our direction, we'll make sure that we answer all of those in that evening as part of the presentation for the public for the adoption of the CIP. Once that's done, then the next year's worth of projects become the foundation for the capital projects fund in next year's annual budget. So that really starts to queue us up for what we need to include, and then departments can start including it in their work plan, and we can start working with our bond council on getting those pieces of the financial resources calendars put together for that.
So public hearing, vote, and then we move forward?
Mm-hmm.
And what about the CIP levy vote?
Council has discretion on when you'd like to put that out in front of the public, and you also have discretion on what you'd like to do with that. The plan anticipates it being available in FY20 for an amount equal to what we're estimating the full 67.5 cents could be. Council could vote to phase it in. It's up to you when you choose to put that out in front of folks, but we know we've tried to build this plan so that if the council chooses, for example, to go 32.5 cents instead of 67, that we can easily kind of pull that brake on a project or two in the plan and still be able to move the bulk of it forward.
But we're capped at $1 million, right?
67.5 cents is the limitation. It's whatever that yields based on your valuation. So we've estimated it at 1.1, and then it would slowly build from there.
And when would we have the discussion about, we had talked at one point, several of these discussions ago, about collecting some of this increase through the utility bill. Mm-hmm. When would we have a discussion about how much we would put the increase there versus how much we'd put in a bond versus CIP levy?
There is a component of that in C, and you'll have this information to look at as well. But we've broken down the utility fee impact. So like for the utility fee impact, for example, in FY20, we're showing for all projects would be like $24.96. So it's a little over $2 a month total.
For FY20.
Yeah. And then it goes up to about $3 a month in FY21, about $4 a month in FY22, and hits $5 a month in FY23. Again, like with some of the other pieces, we've assumed that there would be an increase in the number of utility accounts, but even with that, there's still decisions that the City Council would have to make about how you do that. We've included it as a revenue target of the equivalent of $1 a month per the number of accounts that we have. But we know, for example, that there's some inequities in the current system between single-family homes and multifamily or multi-residential properties. Council could choose to weigh more heavily one way or the other to help us hit that overall revenue target.
And we had also talked about finding out if we'd have the ability for instance, schools can do free and reduced lunch for certain socioeconomic targets. Would we be able to do that for utility fee? Is there a way to find out about, I know specifically at a smaller meeting last week, Amanda, this came up, and that was put out there. Something like that, an opportunity to do?
We can take a look at it, but what I think you'd have to do is there'd have to be some kind of a system to either do a rebate or a credit after the fact. According to the audit finding that Cascade got, they really want to see no discrepancies in a classification of rates. So you couldn't charge one single-family home less than another single-family home, for example. You could charge a different rate to industrial and commercial and residential, but those are classifications of rates, and we don't have an answer to that one yet. But I think Mr. Steigerwalt had said that he was expecting to have an audit finding in the current audit because of their low to moderate income rate program that they have set up right now. So we just don't know yet what avenue you could pursue in order to be able to make that work.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Comments? Thank you. I know this has been a lot of hard work on the part of people in your staff, Lon, but also all the departments, and it's been a lot of work. So thank you for all that you have done on it. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, Nick, ready?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 27319, setting a public hearing for December 6, 2018, regarding the fiscal year 2019-2024 capital improvement program.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27319, setting a public hearing for December 6, 2018, regarding the fiscal year 2019-2024 capital improvement program. Discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution number 27319, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The motion is approved. At this time, we have a presentation under the topic of department presentations, discussions. Chief McHale.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. It's an honor to be here tonight. We'll be brief tonight, no PowerPoint, so you can all applaud now. But 2 years ago, me and my wife stepped foot into the Marion Police Department. We met Lon at the top of the stairs, and he went over to the training room, opened the door, and shoved me and my wife into that room. And inside that room was the Marion Police Department. Thank them. They're here in attendance tonight in the back of the room on their own time, supporting the police department, supporting this community. But they wanted to know a couple things from me. They wanted to know that I was committed to them, and they wanted to know that I was committed to that agency. And they wanted to know what I was going to do about it. And I did my best back then to tell them who I was, where we were coming from, and where we were going to go. From there, I got driven over to the library, and I met with council people and a lot of people from the community, and they wanted to know what I was going to do to reach higher. They wanted to know what my plan was going to be for this community. And it's been humbling to sit here for the last 2 hours, and I'm really glad this session occurred tonight when so many of my staff were here. So they can hear about the why, they can hear about Prospect Metals, they can hear about everything that's happening in Uptown with Medco, with the $100 million in capital improvements that we have pending for our community. We have a distinct responsibility to take care of all that, and we're going to do it for y'all, I promise you. So thank you to the city manager, the department heads, mayor, the council, for everything that y'all have done to support us the last 3 months during our presentations. We just wanted to put it out there for you. This is our strategic plan. This is where we want to go. This is how we want to grow with everything y'all are talking about. It took us about 8 months to get to this point today where I can finally go over there and let y'all do your business for the next few years. But this is the beginning point. I mean, this is just the end of the presentations of what our plan is and how we're going to go. We're going to try to accomplish it through hard work, accountability. We're going to try to have a growth mindset and the ability to adjust to a changing environment, budget conditions. There's so many things that are going to affect where we go. And we're there with you, and we're there with this community. The follow-up, I'm going to make sure that I give you all regular updates via the city manager first, and then we'll bring you updates on how we're progressing through the strategic plan. I've got no secrets going into anything. Everything I'm going to do is right here. And if I'm missing something, don't hesitate to tell me. This is going to be a fluid document. This is going to be something that changes. This is something we're going to grow with. But we got to know where we're going if we're going to get there, right? And at least have a path to follow. So this will be our roadmap to get us there. From the management perspective, from your command staff out there, we're very happy with the direction that we think we've come up with collectively. But I also wanted you to have just a line level perspective. Usually when you fill a city hall chamber with a bunch of police officers and firemen, something's gone really bad. I assure you, I don't think that's the case tonight. They just wanted to come here and give you their perspective on where they think we're going. I don't know what they're going to say. We've had some discussions, but I want to introduce Nick Martins. He's the president of the Marion Protective Police Officers Association. If y'all noticed, he just had a baby. He didn't have his baby. His beautiful wife had a baby. But the baby made it almost 2.5 hours and then finally bailed on us. So congratulations. And I'll let Nick have the podium here for just a bit.
Good evening. Like Chief McHale said, my name is Nick Martins. I'm a police officer and also elected as the leader of the police union. We supervise all the we represent all the non-supervisory employees of the police department. And Chief McHale came up with, why he wanted this plan, but I think I know the real reason, and that's when he first got hired, he wanted to ride along, he wanted to get to know the city. And so I spent a few hours driving him around, showing him the highlights of the town. All of a sudden, we get sent to a call to go pick up a dog. And Chief McHale, coming from Kansas City, first thing he did was he looked at me and just said, "What?" And he couldn't believe that we were going to go pick up this dog. So we go and we pick up this dog, talk to the people that found it, and take it back to the police department. And as we're in the process of getting food and water for the dog, it had the worst case of diarrhea I have ever seen. And so the real reason I think he wants this plan to get us more officers is so he does not have to go cleaning that up ever again. So in all seriousness, no, this is a plan that we've needed for quite some time. Chief McHale has come in and he has the forward thinking and the foresight to make it happen. The citizens of Marion have come to expect a very, very high level of service from the police department. We all know it. But with our current staffing levels, we're falling behind where we should be. It wasn't too long ago that Marion was the safest city in Iowa. Year after year, people knew that you were going to be safe in the city of Marion. And now, based off of what the FBI has come out with, we've fallen to 18th, which is obviously a far cry where we were. But we're behind cities such as Johnston, Mason City, Decorah, Cedar Falls, and Anamosa. So those cities it's not like they're all together with one big problem. That's around the state, and we're falling behind them. By every major metric that you can measure with, we're vastly understaffed. The most conservative report was actually the one that was commissioned by Chief McHale by the University of Cincinnati, suggesting that we need 10 today, right now. Every other study, the FBI, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, suggests that we need to almost double our staffing levels to be effective. So while the city of Marion has enjoyed record-setting growth, the police department has remained at its current staffing levels for far too long. We have an excellent department, and it's a fantastic place to work. And just a fun fact, we have never had an officer leave the Marion Police Department to go to another agency within the state. So that is it's mind-boggling, because if you think of all the transfers from other businesses, other companies, it just happens all the time. But in Marion, people know that we have a good department and we have good leadership. So this strategic plan is a plan for the future, and although there is a light at the end of the tunnel, it's caused a significant strain to get us where we need to be. When I first started with the department in 2011, our minimum staffing level per shift was 3 officers. And that is it's incredible. It was later raised to 4, and now the evening shift, Chief McHale has made 5. So just to put that in perspective, anytime that there's a disturbance, 2 people arguing, a minimum of 2 officers are sent. So if you have 4 officers, that means that if 2 groups of people are fighting, we don't have any more bodies. So if something happens, we can't respond to it. So Chief McHale has raised that minimum staffing level to keep the officers safe, but obviously it's come at a cost. We don't have sufficient staffing to work those shifts, so we have to post overtime. We have to be open 24/7. It's part of the job. We all know it, but getting forced in it's a burden. Since July, we've had over 120 shifts of overtime that have been forced in. So officers attending training, days off, emergencies, being injured, we've had to call in people. Just 11 of those were posted a few hours before this meeting began. And although we all knew what we were getting into when we signed up for this job, our families didn't have a great idea, and all this overtime and the not having staffing is putting a significant strain on them. So in the past, the department, we always go to the city and to the budget meetings and always ask for officers. Sometimes that request is granted, but usually that's to just kind of backfill for retirements or other things. But a lot of times that, asking for officers was just a bargaining chip in the negotiation process, and it was discarded to get something else for us. Either way, that way of planning, it doesn't work, it's not effective, and it doesn't help us. If you were to test for an officer today, hire them, put them through the background check, the polygraph, the academy, the field training program, they would not be ready to work for a year. So if we don't know when we're getting people until, within a year, it just doesn't work. We can't operate like that. We can't grow. So we recognize that we have a fantastic facility. Our equipment is, some of the best of any police department I've seen, not just in the state but in the country. And by no means are we taking these things for granted, but we also have to recognize our need for the most important resource, and that is people. And we've tried to do our job as a department by trimming the budget. Not too long ago, we had 4 canine officers. We trimmed that to 3 to put another body back on the street. We have a officer that is a full-time property officer. That position is going to be transitioning to a civilian role to put another person on the street. We also have a school resource officer position that's totally funded by Marion and Linn-Mar schools. So that's a position that the schools needed. It helps us provide that service. And we also have to drive our vehicles longer. So we all like having new vehicles every couple years. That was kind of one of the perks, but we're extending those. So they're putting a little more miles on them. It's getting a little bumpier to drive around town. And also Chief McHale has done a tremendous job establishing a 911 board and also securing some federal grants, saving almost $250,000. So we're doing our job, or we need your help at this point. So around the country, the numbers of police officers being assaulted is on the rise, and we cannot wait until something terrible happens to one of the people in this room in order to take action. One of my biggest fears is that someday one of the people in the back of the room is going to have to knock on my door and tell my wife that I won't be home. I realize that no one in this room wishes for that, but it is a tragic reality of our job. And if we keep doing what we're doing, keep ignoring the problem, it will happen. We need to do everything in our power to put ourselves in the best situation possible, and Chief McHale's plan does that. Every time that I've spoken with members of the council, every time I've given a presentation up here, I've heard how supportive you are of us, of the department, and how great of a job we're doing. And I really do appreciate that, but now's the time to really show your support, show us that you do care about us, show us that we are important to the city. And just imagine, if you're proud of the work that we're doing now, give us some more people and watch what we can do, because we're really in store for some amazing things. So if you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, Sister Nick.
Chief or Nick, this will be for either one of you. What is our hiring practices today? If we had a seasoned veteran officer from another department, from another institution within the state, do we look at them as entry level, or do they come in as a seniority level from a hiring standpoint? Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
It'd be a process we'd really like to look into in the next year, because we could save on academy costs. We could really trim down that time. But we would have to look at where we bring them in the pay scale, how it affects the general fund. We would have to look at civil service processes, how civil service is affected by that. But I know it can probably be done, but we would have to look into that. But that's something that how does it fit with seniority? And it's a lot of conversations that we hope to have in the next year with the union. If we bring this individual in, how does it affect their seniority status for bidding? It's definitely on our radar to try to answer those questions for you. And we think it could be a benefit to the agency.
I appreciate that. And I apologize. I wasn't leaning towards the seniority level of that as much as
get them in quicker.
Correct.
Yep,
correct.
absolutely.
Putting them on the fast track. Obviously, there's a payroll that's applied and benefits for the first 12 months. That's the learning curve. I would imagine that if we had an application process that we would potentially attract from a larger influence, if you would, as well too, that would allow us to bring in individuals that would be of a caliber that would allow us to move a little bit more quickly.
I don't want to talk about myself, but you got me here.
Exactly.
I mean, this community has a lot to offer. This agency's going places. This community's going places. You got the leadership at so many levels here. If we had a lateral transfer program, I'd probably have some chiefs of other agencies that wouldn't be too happy with me, right? So definitely something worth looking at. Anything else?
Depends how you do it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Anything else?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you to my city manager. I know he's my boss. I respect the heck out of him. He's done a lot for me. To the council, to all my staff that's been here, to the department heads for the presentations, the patience. We're done, but we're not done. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving. And I know Paul's not here, but we wanted to wish him the best too. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks to all of you. Okay, at this time we have our public forum time. This is time that's set aside for residents to address the city council on any topic. Anyone here to address the council? Okay. Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to council discussion. Should we start with the newbie?
Newbie. I don't.
Councilmember Atkins.
The newbie doesn't have anything to say today other than I wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
My major comment is I absolutely applaud the efforts that the chief and the police department did in presenting and pulling together their strategic plan. Again, from my background, my business background, I'm a huge supporter of strategic planning to be able to lay out a group's plan, a city's plan on where we're going, how we're going to get there, knowing that strategic plans change, just as yours will, just as the CIP will. But again, I've talked multiple times that this city needs a 5-year financial strategic plan. So we're starting to pull together all of these pieces, all of these elements that I think are going to enable this city to move forward in a much better planned and progressive way. So I applaud everybody because I know a ton of people put a lot of hours and effort into that, so we appreciate that.
Well, I echo both of them. Happy Thanksgiving. And then to the strategic plan, one thing I'd like to add is it's been great that, Chief, you've allowed other people from the department to step up and speak, because we've gotten to meet people that way, and just, brings our growing community. It makes it feel a little smaller, kind of keeps that feeling. And then, with the CIP process, when you look at all of the TIF applications we're getting and people who want to be here, there's so many great things going on here. This is why I ran for council. I'm so proud of this community. We're doing so many great things when you look at the projects that are proposed, and just, I think, overall the positive momentum that we've got. Marion's a great place to be. So that's my comment tonight, and happy Thanksgiving as well.
Well, I was hoping to hear some history from Paul, but unfortunately he had to go, so I was hoping to bring that back tonight. So I'll just say that happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and also, Chief, thank you for all the presentations. They've been fantastic.
Mr. Sternad.
Me too, my turn? Okay, and Nick just walked out. I'm so glad to see it. Looks like Nick's going to continue his employment with the Marion Police Department. It was a great presentation. Yeah. Again, to the CIP, I want to thank the staff and everybody that puts all those hours in. I know there's rewrites and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites again over those, and there is so many. These are big numbers. There's lots of zeros in there, and yet they're all so very important, and it's difficult to go through there and piece these out one at a time to see what's going to work, what's not going to work, and when we have those plans, we're going to obviously try to stick to it as much as possible. I also had the chance, I didn't bring this up last month, but I attended the Tower Terrace Road Corridor meeting in Hiawatha. It was very interesting to see, first of all, kudos to Mike. The presentation there was exactly what he has presented to us as council before. So I felt that it's very exciting when I know that we are truly being kept up to speed on these things. And it was very interesting as a council member to be sitting in the group to listen to that conversation. There were a lot of city leaders, officials that were there. To see where we are in the grand scheme of that project is incredible. There are cities that haven't even begun the process of how we're going to make that connection. I won't name what city, and I don't know exactly who it was, but they felt that they may have to maybe get a few bake sales on the calendar because they didn't know how they were going to pay for this road. So we can imagine kind of what's going through those minds. So we truly sit here with challenges of numbers and growth and opportunities and wonder, how are we going to do this? We are so fortunate to not have to be on the reciprocating side of understanding how are we going to do this with absolutely no possible vision in sight. So I can't imagine being on the other side of that issue. So I just wanted to kind of bring that forward because I thought it was great, and it's fun being involved with these meetings that involve other communities and other city leaders, and giving us a moment to be humbled by exactly where we're at. So these are true thoughts. I wish Paul good health. Things are progressing with him, and as well to an extension of a happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Safe travels. Looks like the weather is going to hold out for us here in the Midwest, so kudos to that. So thank you very much.
Okay, for my part, I wanted to mention the State of the City luncheon has been set. The date is January 30th at the Marriott, so please mark your calendars. It is open to anyone who would like to attend. That's usually a time where we recap what's happened in the past year and look forward to the next year, and we certainly have a lot to celebrate. So looking forward to a good state of the city and a lot of good things to report. So if you're interested in that, and I hope everyone is, please put it on your calendar. Next week, on Thursday of next week, I will be participating again in the Mayor's Challenge, the Bell Ringing Challenge, the Salvation Army. So I've got to defend my title from last year, so hope everyone will come out and support me. I'll be at High V, ringing the bell. Marion High V from 10 until noon. Mayor Hart will be somewhere in Cedar Rapids, and Mayor Bennett will be at the Fairway in Hiawatha. So I think I doubled the second place winner last year. So we got to continue this defending our title here. So that's always fun. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I just want to say that I'm very thankful for everything that's going on here in this city. I'm thankful to have the chance to work with really amazing council members who I respect, who are very smart, very caring, and really love the city. And I feel like everybody has great intentions to see Marion be the best that it can be. I'm really grateful for the amazing, talented people that run the day-to-day operations of the city that make us all look good. And that, I know we constantly up here push on our staff and challenge you more because we know that we're great. We do great things, but we can always do better. And really appreciate, and I'm grateful for the staff receiving that, those challenges, and really reaching higher and showing us that we can improve and we can continue to better ourselves. I really appreciate our staff's mindset of being customer service oriented, and that we really know that we're here to serve people and to give them opportunities. We don't exist for the sake of our own existence as an organization, but we're here to give people opportunities to have a great quality of life. And I feel like we've really come a long ways in that in the last few years. And I'm just thankful and grateful for all the hard work. I think we really do stand out. I am in lots of places up and down the corridor throughout this region every week, and people stop me everywhere I go. People I don't know, when they find out that I'm from Marion, we are noticed, and people are amazed at the things that are happening. And I even had one person say to me, they're very much a Cedar Rapids person, who said, what are you guys doing? What are you doing that you're thriving so much out there? We'd love to replicate that. And so I just want you to know that it is appreciated, what you do every day. And let's continue strong until the end of the year, and start with plans to have another great year next year. So thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you. I guess I will see you second meeting in December. I will not be here for the first meeting. So thank you. Meeting is adjourned.